Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome finally to the Green Arrow FPL podcast and Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to double game week 33. Thank you so much for those who've waited us on the stream. We had a technical glitch. I rebooted and everything's working again. So hopefully you can hear us and we are raring to go. My name is Fergi and I'm here with the brilliant Rich Clarke. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in double game week 32?
Hi, Fergie. Hi, everyone. Yes, I got a green. Triple captain on Isak, like many of you tuning in and many people out there. It was okay. We said a return in each game would be the kind of minimum we expected. I mean, we'll talk about the spaffometer in a minute, but we got some points at least. I mean, I've had triple captains where the guy's got 1 point and gone off injured after 10 minutes, so it wasn't that bad. So I'm quite happy to get some points with Isak's triple captain. Although, like many people, I spent most of Saturday morning deliberating whether to start Rodgers or start Saka, both of whom the community had decided were definitely getting benched. And so I was between a rock and a hard place on which one to go for. Went back and forth about 20 times and chose Saka because he was the better player theoretically. And of course he got benched and Rodgers started. And so there he is sitting on my bench with 6 points when Saka came on for a 1 point cameo. So it wasn't a perfect game week. Obviously Newcastle's shone in most positions. And I'm sure you'll comment on your points in a minute. But Crystal Palace had a bit of a nightmare, didn't they, really, across the board?
Did they concede 10 goals in 2 games?
Mateta. I mean, absolutely.
Who would have thought Palace, who have been quite defensively sound all season, would concede 10 goals in 2 games? That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, nuts. But look, I mean, they've got another double this week. I suggest we don't panic and we let them play out. But yeah, they look like almost like certainly miles away from Newcastle at the moment. So selling Newcastle assets this week because they don't double feels a little bit of a bone and contention, doesn't it, really? But highest rank of the season, Fergie, into the top 500,000 for the first time.
Come on, baby.
We've got a big bench boost coming, and that's going to be the bulk of our discussion this evening.
These weeks are exciting now, aren't they? So yeah, nice green for you, Rich. Nice green for me as well. I had 94 points up to 340k, which surprisingly isn't my highest rank of the season. I did sort of peak around the game week 24, 25, and then I had a massive slump around 26, 27 when I even had Glasner and all this lot. But as you can see, top of the pops for me. Well, second actually. But Nick Pope penalty save against Eze.
Fantastic.
Against Eze, a highly owned Eze
who I
don't own is one of those moments.
Big swing,
massive swing, absolutely insane. He didn't get any bonus, which I was a bit disappointed about for a penalty save and a clean sheet. But I cannot moan at 15 points over the 2 weeks. Defense very, very disappointing. I think I made an error. I think your Rodgers and Saka one was a bit of a coin flip, but I was warned on the stream last week actually that Timber may not play, and I was tossing it between Timber and Konsa, but because Konsa was rested the week before, I should have gone with Konsa. I think I should have started him, and he had 7 points, and I think that was an error on my part because not only did Timber play, but they played Brentford, who are a good attacking team. So all in all, I maybe should have gone Konsa. I benched Rodgers. I mean, I kind of stand by that because I wasn't going to bench any of the other front seven.
I've owned him all season, and the last 3 weeks I haven't played him once. He scored 25 points in 3 weeks, and I've sat him first bench every time. What a player I am.
Indeed, but Murphy coming in clutch. I mean, what a pickup he's been these last 2 or 3 weeks. It's been absolutely crazy. Fantastic. So, yeah, very, very excited. My bench is looking threadbare. Depends how you look at it, I suppose. A few single game week players, but excited for this. Excited for the free hits next week as well, and then obviously looking on to 35 onwards, but a couple of good weeks, which is nice. And an outside, I think both of us, Rich, potentially, I don't want to speak too soon, but an outside sniff of the top 100k maybe sort of, it's kind of edging back into view through the cloud. I think a few weeks ago it was up in the sky. We were getting the binoculars out and it was looking grim.
needs some big luck, I think, for me.
It does. It's not
needs
either, but with the
luck.
bench boost and the free hit, because a lot of people have used the free hit already, Rich. I don't think we should underestimate the free hit next week. If we can get shave another 100k off our rank this week, and then do a big we need some luck on the free hit. Obviously, you obviously need luck. You need your players you pick to actually bang. But I think we've got a chance, mate. Anyway.
Good attitude, mate. I agree with you.
Thank you so much, everyone, joining us. First up in the chat was Belfast Bunch. Said, "Hey, Fergie, please play the violin for me, as I've had João Pedro sitting at #1 on my bench all double game week after seeing Morgan Rogers do similar game week 31 and 30. The game can be painful, absolutely." Colin Harrison is in. Sandy is in from Ontario and Canada. Darren Parker. Sandy says, "Be active for game week 33. Mark said, "All waiting on Rich Clarke's wisdom." Paul Van Rensburg is in, and so many more. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. FPL SWAT, I haven't seen him for a while. Great to have you in. And Oliver says, "Viva Hub Ultras," says Triple Captain Isak. Super spaff. Well, let's just have a look at that first then on the spaffometer, because Rich, I haven't put it as a spaff. I've put an 11-point triple captain as a solid. It's a pretty solid meh. I think a solid meh. So. I think it's okay. I think it's I think anything under sort of 9 or 8 points would be it would be that's a real waste. I think anything over sort of 12, 15 would have been a smashed it, but 11 point is a it's passive.
I think it's a meh. Doesn't really need debating the actual rate in here, but I think we were a little bit influenced by the absolute mayhem that Haaland caused in game week 2 and Salah caused when he got the 29 points. 29 points is an outlier.
Oh, it's crazy.
That's an amazing week. So if you smashed it then great. But yeah, I think anything between 10 and 20 is fine on a triple captain, really.
Haaland's 17-pointer, which was lauded as absolute smashed it. It's only 6 points more. So I do feel I feel okay with 11 points. Obviously wanted more, right? Wanted 13, 14 or a bit more.
The chances that Isak missed in that first half as well.
Oh, it was crazy.
To really clean up. I mean, they were just bouncing off him in all directions, wasn't it? It was incredible how people who were not even watching the game were thinking, "Oh, they're 4-0 up," but he hadn't had any of it. It was incredible to think he's not got anything of the first 4 goals, but yeah, he's all right. Isak's fine. I think the bench boost, which obviously we were up against last week, didn't fare too well in general.
I saw a lot of kind of 10, 11 pointers
out there. Yeah, similar kind of return TC versus bench boost this week. I've got a feeling bench boosters will win out this week over triple captainers, but it could go the other way.
Couple of points. I think both of us called it separately last week, Rich. You were smack on the money when you said, if you're chasing, it's time to go a little bit different. And you called out Murphy as potentially, if you are going to go different, go for Murphy. So very well called there, Rich. And my Fergie is a punt last week for those who followed. FPL semi-casual Rupert, a good friend of mine. He said I gave him the confirmation bias he needs, and he captained Harvey Barnes for a 52-pointer. So both of us called it last week, Rich, which is quite nice. But as you said, and I've upgraded. So I've made a call. It'd be good to see what the chat says, but I've upgraded our wildcard 2 from a spaffed to a meh, because I think that these last 2 weeks have been pretty solid. Expect us to do okay in 33 as well. I've upgraded to a meh. If you're happy with that, we can. Put it in I
thought we were on that anyway. I mean, I think if we get a good bench boost and we get through next week cleanly and get up to sort of top 200, 300k, to have made that kind of rank halving progress in 3 weeks since wildcarding, I think is a smashed it. Really, you've got to say the wildcard has worked out, especially if we get like 6 double game weekers in an as yet unknown game week 36 on the back of it without needing to make any transfers. You're well set up for another big scoring week in game week 36. So I think it's working out as a game maximization strategy.
I think so. I think whether you used it in 30 or 31, the only downside I think from using it in 31 is in 30 was that our previous teams would have scored similarly, or potentially a little bit more.
Correct.
But I think other than that, 30 or 31, much of a muchness. Murphy in on the wild card was the main one.
Yeah.
Newcastle defender or keeper. But yeah, good stuff. Anyway, enough about our own teams. We got the lay of the land now. So yeah, not long left in the season, Rich. Six game weeks. This lay of the landslide is getting narrower and narrower every week. What are your sort of macro thoughts as we go headlong into the tail end of the season?
Well, it's not obviously not broadly changed. Nothing, no new
No.
announcements this week. Apart from we now know Villa are out of the Champions League after a valiant effort, and Adam must have had a great night last night at Villa Park against PSG. Again, another fantastic game.
Superb.
Sorry, on Tuesday night.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
and to just lose by the odd goal at the end and having that last minute chance. I think it was Matson had a fantastic save out of or a block on the line in the last minute of normal time. Could have easily done it, but at Villa are out now, and that does clear their schedule
Does.
somewhat as they're still in the cup, and they would have had real rotation issues in these last weeks, being in two cups and have playing for another Champions League spot. So that makes Villa players slightly more attractive. We have games tonight. I'm not sure I'll be watching them, but we have Tottenham playing, your team, and United. And if they progress and get to the semi-finals, I think that makes the double in game week 36 more likely for the teams we've got highlighted there. If there aren't any fixtures for United or Tottenham like European finals to contest, then it does make the doubles less likely, I think, to be pulled back into 36. So let's hope at least one of the teams makes it through tonight, and therefore creates a little bit of fixture congestion for the FA. But yeah, I think the next thing to look forward to beyond this week is the cup semi-finals. Yeah. And once we know those in game week 34, that will shape us for the double game week in game week 36, which is, I think, the most likely is about a 64% chance.
Yeah,
I think it is for
That's
City
right.
and Bournemouth to double. And then the others are lower than that, about sort of 40% chance or 26% chance for some of the other teams. So we just need to let those semis play out, and then we'll know who is going to double in 36. But by going strong on the cup semi-finalists this week, you can give yourself 5 or 6 doublers,
Right.
regardless of the outcome of the semi-finals. So it does feel like a time to go for doublers this week if you have a bunch of stacked transfers like we do, Fergie.
We do, and I think the main question for for all those who are bench boosting this week is how far to go. So I think we've got 3 each. I was having a look through our mini leagues or my mini leagues, and there's not many have got 3. A lot have got sort of 1 or 2, and it's I think the balance is where we'll look next at who to target from a defensive view and an attacking view, but it's also hits as well. Like this taking hits for a bench boost has been proven over the years to actually work really well. I haven't done it myself when I probably should have, but there's lots of opportunity in there. You mentioned the teams there, so the teams you're talking about there are teams like Villa, Man City are probably the prime two, because they're both their favourites and their corresponding FA Cup fixtures. And I suppose this is the thing which this is maybe the insight which you can give that not so engaged managers will give, is that going for those players ahead of potential other teams could give that slight edge later on. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. Just because you're getting you're getting a double immediately,
Yeah.
which is certain. Okay, Villa's double this week isn't that great, and of course they may well rotate at some point. So depending on who you choose, you probably want to go for as nailed assets as possible in their team or either team really. But you're looking at a likelihood of just getting another double. So you're getting a double for that transfer. So let's say the transfer is worth 4 points. It's almost free. Think of it as free because you're getting 2 extra fixtures, one now and one in game week 36. And so you can
good show.
easily move to a position of maximising on those two teams. Arsenal don't have another double coming, and they play Liverpool in game week 36. But they have such a good double, arguably the best one this week, that not having three Arsenal assets, or maybe two Arsenal assets and Arteta, if you're playing your assistant manager, is equally a good play because they have the best fixtures this week and a very high potential for immediate returns. The doubling team that probably is less attractive of two 5-goal defeats is Crystal Palace.
Absolutely.
So it's not a bad play potentially to sell a Palace asset for a doubling Villa or Man City asset this week because they just have more upside later in the season. If you're happy with everybody else in your team, Jacob Murphy being a fantastic example of probably the form player in the entire Premier League at the moment, and we're all going to sell him. We're all talking about selling him. So,
So,
is that wise?
yeah, no, well, I think it's team dependent. I think I know that's like a scabby answer, but if you've only got Murphy and Isak to get rid of, for example, or Murphy and Livermen to get rid of, and you've got your 2 free transfers and you've still got Salah and you can afford to get the doublers, then it probably is. However, if you're probably in a position we're in, where even after we've used our transfers, we're still left with a couple of singles, we'll probably include Murphy, probably better hold on. But I don't think Newcastle's fixtures, so Newcastle have got Ipswich in 34, which is a good fixture, but a lot of managers will be free hitting anyway. So I think that's absolutely fine. 35 to 38, I think Newcastle have actually got some quite tough fixtures. So I think Murphy and Isak are probably the two to hold on to, just in terms of form if you're going to. But there are plenty of other options who have got more fixtures, better fixtures, potential more upside as well. So it is an interesting one. We'll come on to the combinations when we get to our teams,
sure,
because there's so many. This
there are, and I think that all of a sudden, these targets that we're going to talk about are very different to the targets that we were talking about in game week 32, and very different to the ones previously. They do, just from week to week, because clearly there's been a massive drop off in Palace's form. The form of Mateta, the minutes risk around him, the uptick in form of Newcastle, the uptick in form of Villa. Villa would have probably beaten any team apart from PSG over two legs. They were really unlucky not to get into extra time, so they're looking great. Arsenal, fantastic performance to knock out Real Madrid. Absolutely amazing performance both games. So Arsenal still great for investment, and there's new City assets, at least 2 or 3 emerging that we haven't been talking about in recent weeks, and they all make the slide this week, Fergie.
So who are your picks?
Who have we got?
Week? So I saw defensive targets first.
Yeah, absolutely. We got too many to fit onto one slide, so we thought we'd cover it from a defense. So first of all, if you need a keeper, if you want a doubling keeper, then Ortega of Man City looks extremely likely to play both games of the double. Seen something out. I wasn't able to confirm it, but it came from some Twitter journalistic site, Football Insider or something like that, and it said that Ederson is not likely to ever play again for Man City. Now, I don't know whether that's just a complete piece of clickbait or not, but I didn't get a chance to open it up and read it. But if he is out and is not going to play again, you've got a cheap City keeper for the rest of the season, and you could be putting that on your bench boost. So that looks like a gift really this week. So I thought that was worth discussing. Does it look kosher?
It's looking to that. Well, it says, so this is off footballinsider247.com. It says, in addition to that, with the first choice goalkeeper likely ruled out until the end of the season. So that's the thing. But like I say, it's tough. I'll check out some sources, mate.
But it's worth flagging it up as a possible, possible option there.
I think I've seen a few. It says out for weeks, and if he's out for weeks,
go for it.
Go for it. Free.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking of going for Diaz, and that's why he's made it in the foreground. Thank you for putting him right in the foreground there. Ruben Diaz looks pretty nailed for the time being until maybe a Kanji comes back, and then he might take the odd game off him, or Guardiola might be moved up pitch. but I think Diaz is pretty nailed on for 6 out of the last 7
Yeah, I
games,
think so.
maybe for City. And he's 5.4 million, so he's cheaper
Cheap.
than a Saliba if you're looking to generate a bit of cash, or you are going up from a Livramento or something like that this week. I do like Diaz as an option. I haven't got Saliba in yet, and I think he is the safest option if you're looking for someone who's going to play both games in the double for Arsenal. However, he is 6.5 million, and if you're looking for a more expensive punt upfield, then you may not have the budget to swap Gabriel for Saliba. So I do like Saliba, but you could easily have had Kivior in here, who is the budget
Absolutely.
Arsenal option at 4.8. We just couldn't really fit him on the slide as well. But Kivior, if you're looking to get more money, but Saliba is also there. And then I've got Connor Bradley survived. I didn't know. I sent you a note this morning to say Connor Bradley looked a great pick last week, and I think he returned a 9-pointer for people
Yeah,
who bought him in early. He plays Leicester this week, looking, possibly for returns at both ends of the pitch there. But Trent is back in training, so I think Bradley looks very short term
agree.
in terms of an option. Maybe if you're wild carding in 35, then Bradley looks a decent option, but I would probably have flipped him for Kivior if I was redoing this slide now.
So who is your number one Gabriel replacement, Rich? Just objectively, not in terms of
Uh,
your team, but who is your number one
yeah.
replacement? Because there's lots of people that got him still.
If you've got the money, I would just get Saliba. I just
Okay.
think Saliba's gonna play both games. If you haven't got the cash, I think there's about a 0.4 difference at the moment. If you haven't got the cash, I would go for Diaz or Kivior.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Makes
Yeah.
sense. And
Do you agree with that?
I do. I do. I think. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I think the Everton match is a decent one. It's obviously got. Well, I've got and a lot have got Gvardiol already. So double Man City defense just hasn't really been very fruitful over the last couple of seasons. But I've also got Konza. I'm probably going to bring in Martinez this week as well. I think so. I do think City and Villa, and and out of the ones we've mentioned, I think there was not. I don't think there's an awful lot of options this week of bench boost for keepers. You're quite tied to the specific teams, aren't you? You don't want to bring in any Palace players.
No, I've got Areola, and I wouldn't have thought it was worth swapping him out for Ortega, and using a transfer. I mean, I could. I'm getting an extra game
Yeah.
potentially, but Areola's at home to Southampton, so you know, I don't think that's necessarily a position I have to change. But if you haven't got any doubling keepers because you've been playing, I don't know, Pope, or you don't want to play Henderson in those 2 away games or those 2 difficult games for Palace, then
I think
maybe
I
Ortega.
know there's an argument, Rich, that if you do think Edison is out, and bear in mind that's just a couple of news articles, that may not be right. But if you do think Edison is out for the season, I do think even taking a hit this week, because it's in essence it'll be a 4-for-1 in terms of Edison to Ortega's potential 4 matches in 33 and over 36, because you won't have a doubling keeper otherwise in 36, will you? So I think
No.
there is an argument to say that a -4 could be worth it for the 3 extra games over the two game weeks.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, you're right. Right. Yeah, and also you can play the other keeper through the blank as well, can't you? Potentially.
Exactly
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Looking further upfield, so many punty options this week. I feel I was trying to do the expected minutes this morning, just kind of having a look through our our algorithms and sort of AI, and just trying to work out what is going on, and it's so difficult to look at minutes of certain
I'm
players.
interested in some of these expected minutes actually for these players. Maybe if you've got them to hand, you can read them out.
Them to hand, yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
Excellent.
And they're on Fancy Football Hub. If anyone wants to have a look, just go on predicted points, and on each one we've got the expected minutes. But yeah, shout some out, mate, and I'll see what I can do.
I mean, the biggest issue, and in fact, all 5 of the men on this chart could be classified as minutes risks over the double.
Absolutely.
even the indestructible Morgan Rogers, who makes the front of the the front of the pack here. So Rogers, who, as I say, has played almost every minute of every game this season, despite the community telling us that he's going to be benched last week. He wasn't benched against Southampton. He played 86 minutes and again got a return towards the end of the game. So his form is improving, his points are there, and he just is nailed on. So Rogers, if you haven't got him in, looks a really solid pick for this week, and you will see either him or Saka are the two most popular and logical transfers in. Now, what's really nice about me, even though I haven't scored many points from these two guys in the last 3 weeks, is I have got them both. So I like the fact that I can use my 3 free transfers on some other players rather than people who are going to be scrabbling to get Saka and Rodgers in. But if you haven't got either of them, I would say they are the two most popular transfers to go for this week. So Saka doesn't really need any introductions. The only issue is he hasn't started a game in the league since he's been back. So is he going to start both games in the double?
So we had
There's a lot of debate.
Yeah, we had
a lot of debate going on.
We had a long discussion internally about this morning,
Yeah.
and we settled on a number after speaking to about 6 different people, and we've gone for 68, an average of 68 minutes per game over the two. So I think we're fairly sort of undecided as kind of as individuals whether he starts both. I think he starts both. A couple of others think he'll start one at bench or whatever else. I think the main thing is he doesn't play next weekend, so they play midweek. On the weekend they play midweek, and then they don't play until the following week, and
a whole week
which
off.
will be the Champions League. So we've gone for an average of 68 minutes. He could play 70 in one, 65 in the other. He could play 80 odd in one and 30 in another. Kind of wherever it is. But I think we've collectively decided that we think Saka is probably going to play both, but may come off early in one, if not both. And that's reflected in his predicted points. You can apply your own layer of discretion on what you think. There's another couple of people we were talking to who thinks he'll definitely be benched in one. So if you think he's only going to get 90 minutes, then maybe again that's your own call. But I think the fact he doesn't play next weekend. They're building up his minutes, building up fitness. I think he played 78 minutes last night. So he played 78 minutes. I just don't see why they would bench him in either of these two. But it's a very personal view. And obviously Arteta's got his own, his own mind.
No, I'm glad he's in. I think I I think last week you were saying, you thought that Palmer was going to give me a spanking because I didn't have him. Palmer only outscored him by 1 point, despite all those benchings in the last 3 weeks. So I feel like I've got away with it not owning Palmer. But I think people who have got Palmer, they'll have had enough now. And I think
Palmer to Saka will be a very sharp transfer this evening, for sure. So you're a transfer ahead of me there, actually.
So that's definitely one to do, I think. And then if you don't fancy Saka, or if you have lots of transfers, then Mr. KDB is in the background there after a very good performance last week against Crystal Palace. I mean, my view on this is one good performance. He hasn't really been talked about all season. However, because he's come out and said he's playing pain-free for the first time, this has suddenly turned him into Lionel Messi overnight, and he's now going to destroy our seasons. I have noted though that they've still got to play Wolves. Which is that birthday game that I scored the 60 points in and the 4 goals in the half. So if you can get to him, he's tempting.
I think Man City's finish to the season. I haven't got it in front of me, but I think they've got some really nice fixtures. They really have. Yeah. So I think he's a good pick. I think he's a very good pick until the end of the season. Like you say, he's pain-free. His last 2 league games, he's played 90 minutes, 87 minutes. We've got him down as an average of 67 at the moment, so he's kind of, he's probably on the cusp of the AI team, on the cusp of recommended transfers. Again, it's kind of an average because probably from now to the end of the season, what is there? 5 games left. He may play 3 to 4 of them. Come on the other, but I wouldn't be surprised if he plays them all.
He's definitely going to get the Bournemouth game, I think, which is their last home game, because that'll be a bit like the kind of goodbye David Silva or goodbye Sergio Aguero type game, won't it, at the Etihad? Yeah. So He's definitely going to start that one. Whether he starts the second game in this double, it being before the semi-final, I'm not sure. But I think you're still going to get maybe 100 and 120 minutes out of him over the double, and you've got him for the run-in as a bit of a differential, or as a big differential, because a lot of people have got to do that Saka move, haven't got a slot necessarily, haven't got the free transfers to do it. So he will make a nice differential in the double game week, and he's a good chaser pick. So for us, he's a good chaser pick, because you don't really want to pick a high ownership player if you don't need to. Then on the other side, we've got a couple more budget friendly options. So Marino. Now Marino looks like he's going to continue playing number 9 for Arsenal, and he's starting every game. He scored 4 goals in the last 8 weeks, I think. So he is starting to put the goals in. He scored in the Champions League, and I don't think he's much of a minutes risk. I mean, he could lose out to Trossard, but I think he's going to start most games for Arsenal. So if you fancy not going double Arsenal defence and you want to go double Arsenal midfield alongside Saka, I think Saka's the priority. But if you want to use 2 slots on Arsenal players, then I like Marino a lot, and I think he could do really well. And then probably the last one is probably the one which has got the most headlines about it, the most discussion amongst the community, is now the time for Marcus Rashford.
Wow.
You know, given the fact that he's been confirmed as the number 1 penalty taker, he appears to be first choice as the striker over Ollie Watkins. I mean, if Ollie Watkins was number 1, especially after scoring against Southampton, why did he not start against PSG? I was surprised that Rashford was taken off for Watkins. He was having an absolute stormer.
He was. I completely agree. And because I think in was it the first leg? He was a bit anonymous, I think, wasn't he, in the first leg? And I wasn't sure he was going to play, but he was superb, wasn't he? And I think he is.
Dribbling was brilliant.
I think he's number 1. I think I think it's a combination of Watkins with his fitness and stuff as well. But at the moment, like, Rashford he's there, and he was superb. So I think he's a very, very good. I think I prefer him in terms of the punty minutes. We're talking about Saka, De Bruyne, and Rashford. They're also. I'm really not sure actually. As I say,
easy, isn't it?
We were debating for ages.
Well, what did you go for his minutes then? What was the hub saying?
69 minutes. I just looked actually, and they're all they're all in the late 60s. It is an average, right? Because even if he does start, he'll probably be brought off. But we've got him as 68, 69 minutes on all 3 of these players at the moment, and it's just because we're really not sure. You wouldn't be surprised if they started. You wouldn't be surprised if they didn't start. But I think all 3 of them definitely start 1 next week. I wouldn't be surprised if they all. I don't know, mate. I don't know if they start the second. I think Saka. I think Saka is probably more nailed to start the second game out of all of them.
Right. Okay. Interesting. I'd probably say that. I don't know. I think Watkins will get a start in the 2 games. He won't start both, and I think Rashford will get 1 start because of the semi-final. And I think Rashford probably starts the semi-final.
That's a good shout, and that's the difference between Rashford and Saka. Rashford and Saka. Saka doesn't play on the weekend, so I think Saka has got that advantage over the other 2 in terms of minutes. Nicely.
I think that's it. But look, I mean, any of these players, if you buy them, even Rodgers, because he's still probably due a rest, could get benched. The only thing you can do in a double game week is give yourself up to 12 chances of a player playing twice, isn't it?
And just put your neck on the line with who you think. I think Saka is going to play both, so I'm putting my neck on the line with that. If he doesn't play both, it's on me. It's not anything other than you try and use your own experience, initiative, and the narrative that you put yourself in, that it is. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. How how often every week do we see it where what should happen doesn't and vice versa? Who thought Crystal Palace could
Hardly ever.
Who thought Crystal Palace would concede 10 goals in a double game week and Mateta would get 2 points? Crazy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's worth mentioning, but I mean, Gian, often as a guest on our show, he was brave enough to go against the herd and triple captain Mateta last week. So shout out to Gian for playing it his way, but it didn't work out for him. And you got sometimes you got to go with your gut, right?
Sure, mate. This is what the game is all about, and I really admire people who play that way. He's had some fantastic calls this season. Okay, this one didn't work out, but he's had some superb calls earlier in the season, Jan, when he was very brave to go against really high EO, backed himself, and sometimes it goes for you and sometimes it doesn't. If we were braver last week, mate, we would have Captain Murphy, as we both said, exactly. And this is it. Very quick look at predicted points for the next few game weeks. This is for the next 4 game weeks now. Salah top, 30.7. Isak second. Palmer, Saka, Cunha is the one who is coming into eyeline. Even though it was confirmed after we spoke last week, Rich, that the manager came out and said he definitely wasn't going to start against Spurs because Wolves had been playing well. But obviously he came on and scored. And I think they played Leicester in game week 34. So I've got my eye on him for the free hit in 34. Marmoush, I was looking at Marmoush's stats earlier on, mate. They're really impressive. I think it's Marmoush's stats which is going to make me probably captain him this week, I think. Spoiler alert.
Okay.
He's having a lot of shots on target. He's probably been a touch unlucky not to score more. Visser, Mateta, De Bruyne is up there again because of those minutes. Chris Wood is back in the fold. Back fit, and Forest fixtures are pretty decent actually for the next few. And then a few more underneath there.
That's very interesting, isn't it? That 33 to 36, how far out in front Salah and Isak are with no double game weeks to support them, or not even a possibility of a double game week, really. So keeping them, as a bench boost strategy is just seems very sensible, doesn't it?
I think so, mate. I think so. A quick look at what Hub AI says if you were free hitting this week. So there are some people who played different chips last week and a free hitting this week. This is what Hub AI says. Martinez in goal with Areola as the backup. Saliba, Kiwior, who we started mentioning a few weeks ago now, Rich. He looks like he's absolutely nailed and playing very well. And Gvardiol as a back three, and then Saka, De Bruyne. It still fancies the Palace attack.
I saw that, and I thought, really?
Well, I do like that. I do like that Bournemouth home fixture. I think is pretty decent. Actually, I think Bournemouth have been pretty. I know they kept a clean sheet last week, but before that, they haven't kept them for a while. So I do think that Bournemouth home fixture is good. So
I just don't think I'd go a triple up on free.
I wouldn't go a triple up. I wouldn't go a triple up. Sarr, Eze, and Rodgers, and then Marmoush and Mateta up top, Isak, Konza, and Virgil on the bench. No Salah, but obviously there's plenty of midfielders there who've got 2 games, or two games worth. So that's what the AI says for free hit. Palace will bounce back, Rich. Do you think they're done and done? And if you've got 3, you've got to play them all this week, right? You're not going to not.
I think you've got to play them in the double, but I think they're going to be the make weights in 35, 36, 37, assuming that, of course, they don't turn. Well, if they beat Villa at Wembley in the semi-final, then we'll be hanging on to them right up till game week 37, won't we? Because they'll have another double.
Yeah.
Like in all likelihood. So I think you've got to wait and see keep them for this week.
Yeah.
You probably won't see them on that many free hits in game week 34, but then you'll have them again in 35 and you'll know the cup outcomes. So I think you keep them pending the cup outcomes. But yeah, it's a good free hit team. I think I would... it's interesting how it's gone Saka over Marmoush, I think, on captaincy.
On points,
I guess though that's just higher predicted points is the reason for that. But that must mean your expected minutes are quite high for Saka, and
they're only on 68, mate. This is the thing. If Saka plays 80 in both those games, He goes up to about 14 predicted points. So again, you can lay your own discretion. If you think Saka's he's back now, he's fit. They've been building him up for this Madrid game, and now he's just in. I think he's captain material, and the only reason I'm probably going for I don't know if I go to Marmoush. Interesting stat in the chat. Where was it? Joseph Robinson has just said, if this is correct, this is interesting. Marmoush, no goals, no assists away from home this season, and they're away to Everton, who are tough, tough, and then Villa, who are playing superb and nearly beat PSG. So maybe Saka is the way to go. Do you know what? I might go Saka, mate. Palace just conceded 10 goals in 2 games. And Arsenal are home to Palace and away to Ipswich.
Yeah.
I think I'm going Saka. Just changed my mind in a heartbeat.
I think you've got to look at the ownership of the two. I mean, I think probably like you can see how much you'll gain by going one or the other. I quite like the Saka punt. I mean, I've been playing him every week over Rodgers and haven't really got anything apart from that cameo goal in the first week. So he is due. Scored a lovely goal last night. Obviously, I'm not sure he'll be taking a penalty like that again, but he'll probably should stay on penalties.
I will.
And they're quite likely to get a penalty across those 2 fixtures as well. So I think Saka's a decent captain shout this week. I'm not sure I'd triple captain him, but I think
we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. Firstly, we have managers who are on assistant manager as well. All these chips, mate, they're hard to keep up with.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
But there are managers in their 3rd week now of assistant manager. If you go on to Fantasy Football Hub, you can check out our predictions. We've highlighted the Game Week 33 ones here. Arteta is top, predicted to get 16 points this week. Home to Palace, way to Ipswich, probably predicted to win both games. 16 points there. Guardiola, second, obviously Man City, 13.9. Postecoglou at Spurs, 12.9. He must be fancy to earn over Forest. And obviously there is table bonus there.
Table bonus, that's table bonus. I think on Glasner's second fixture as well.
So Glasner only at 9.1, and then Slot against Leicester. They should win there, and Emery, 8.2 in the double. Who would your
if you were at AM on Glasner this week, and knowing how precious transfers are, would you spend a transfer to move that?
I think you've got to leave it, mate, haven't you? I just who have they got? Arsenal and Bournemouth. I wouldn't be using a transfer. I think transfers over these next few. I think transfers this week are super important. I think I always try and think in periods of the season. I think from game week sort of 30 onwards, the whole player pool changed, didn't it? And I think we're going to see it from this week onwards as well. Everyone's been piling Palace and Newcastle. The whole thing changes again now. We'll see a lot of Man City, a lot of Villa. We'll be going back to Forest. We'll be going back to different. So I think transfers are an absolute premium. So if you've got a system manager in, he's got a double game week. How sick would you feel if Palace all of a sudden, which they can't, Palace is certainly just not a bad team, right?
Put a 20-pointer in.
Palace are not a bad team, just like that. We were raving about them last week. We were raving about what a fantastic team, what a manager. He might be off to Spurs in the summer, wherever else. They've had 2 awful results, but they're still a good team. So got to stick with Glasner, save the transfer, use it elsewhere, or save it for after the free hit. Would be my advice. Would that be your advice, Rich?
Good luck with it. I think don't lose heart with Glasner. The double, very transfer efficient assistant manager. I mean, obviously, it's looking worse because I think Eddie Howe's put up 31 points or something, or close to that, or 35 points even over the 3 weeks that he's had so far. So it does look like you made a bad call there if you've gone Glasner over Howe, but he's got a good chance with table bonus this week. So I would hold the transfer.
Agree, mate. Triple captain target. There are people with a triple captain chip as well. So I think it's is this the 5th chip we've talked about this week?
Do anything this week,
So it goes on to the obviously onto the captaincy conversation. There's probably three candidates you picked out, Rich: Saka, Marmoush, and Salah, who's only got a single, hasn't scored, barely had a shot in target in the last 5 or 6 weeks. We'll talk about that now. Just a quick look at the stats. The predicted points on Fantasy Football Hub: Saka top, as you mentioned earlier, 11.7. Marmoush 10.4. Martinelli is quite high on 10.2. But interestingly, on the vote, and apologies, I only updated the vote this morning, which is why there's such limited votes. But 61% are going for Marmoush and only 25% for Saka. So I'm probably even more tempted to go for Saka now, Rich, because I fancy him anyway. He's top for predicted points, and it looks like he's going to be a differential captain.
It doesn't sound like quite as, I don't know, riskier decision as the Mateta versus Isak one we were talked about just now. It's like that's going to be quite close. I mean, I can see Saka getting good minutes. I agree with your predictions, and the teams he's playing. I certainly think the next week's fixture against Palace, Arsenal probably will, put in one of those 4-5-0 defeats in. And I can see Saka getting a big haul in one of the two games. So yeah, it's a toughie. But certainly it's between those two for me. I think Salah will get returns against Leicester. They're pretty bad.
Do you think?
Are
you certain? So Leicester improved a bit last week.
I think so. Yeah, got at home. I think that could be. Yeah, the Virgil's just signed a new contract now. I think they're just going to go for it, aren't they? I can see 4 or 5 in that game. So yeah, if you want to go for Salah, although you've got to go for a double game week, haven't you? You've got
Salah. You can't go for a single game week and a double game week. This is what we're here for, mate. This is FPL.
Exactly.
This is FPL.
We know what we're doing.
Fergie's a punt for game week 33. Harvey Barnes last week, mate. 26 points over the 2 weeks, which is pretty. Over the 2 games, which is pretty insane. Quite pleased with that one. It was a touch boring, but and it was based risky on Gordon, on Gordon's minutes and stuff. But punt this week again. It's because we're kind of limited on the double game week teams, the same as last week. There's only so many who are actually in the pool of players. So again, it's a touch boring. We touched on him earlier, but I do think that this player is going to have a good end to the season. I think he's going to be loaned this week. I think he's hard to get to. I think he's going to have a decent week this week. I fancy 2 returns in the 2 games this week. But I feel holding him through the free hit in 34, potential for double in 36. I think he's going to play lots of minutes now at the end of the season, back on form, injury free, and I think Kevin De Bruyne is going to be a very low owned pick. Home to Wolves in 35, away to Southampton in 36, and home to Bournemouth in 37. Hello,
which could be in 36. Yeah, and that's the last game at the Etihad, so he's guaranteed to start that one.
I honestly. Yeah. I'm not sure I can get to him without a hit or two, but I really like his chances, and I may pivot to him ahead of 35.
Yeah, I mean you can still get him in 35, can't you? If you want to change things around, you don't. It might be a hit, or it might be, I don't know. Saka could be not pulling trees up and go Saka to De Bruyne in 35. If that's the game he's going to miss before the Champions League. So, yeah, this week feels like a good week to do it, though. If you're going to do it,
I think it's the week. If you remember, mate, it's back in game week 11, and Bruno Fernandes was off the radar. And that week, we said this is the week to do it. There's nobody doing it next week because he's got Leicester and everyone will be on him.
And everyone will do it.
And he had 2 goals and an assist, 17 points, and that's the week I feel for De Bruyne is you've got to do it before the ownership. And this week will be before the ownership. He will be low owned. Yes. And, obviously if he does it or not is, that's just outcome based. But based on the thing of give yourself a chance to smash it, I think De Bruyne this week is it. Because he's hard to get to for me, for you, for lots of people, because of his price point. It's incredibly awkward. Lots of people will be buying Saka this week. Everyone's got Salah this week against Leicester. People got premium defenders. He's hard to get to, De Bruyne, and some will have already tripled up potentially on Man City in terms of double defense and Marmoush, for example. So we will see. But I think you've got to, if you're gonna do it, you've got to do it this week, and that's my
I agree. Summary. I think he's a great punt. I'd almost prefer him as a free hit pick to a for the rest of the season pick, but yeah, definitely puntable.
Animation says I think he's going to bring him in and captain. That is brave, but it's hard to. I think Saka, KDB, and Rashford this week are 3 players they could go either way, couldn't they? They really could go completely flop, or they could go and absolutely smash it. But you've got to. Yeah. It's there's not many opportunities where you can just go, come on, let's go for it.
Yeah.
And this is it.
That is the punt position, that kind of whatever you call it, that second or third midfielder spot that you've got an opportunity to get arguably a premium mid or a mid-price mid
Absolutely.
in who's low owned, and it's going to rocket you up the ranks if it comes off. So whatever don't just go. I mean, I'm trying to think of a safer pick, but there isn't really one, is there? There isn't.
No,
really
and this is the point: is the whole dynamic of the player pool is changing now. It's changing to what it's going to be, and if you can get ahead of the curve, because if De Bruyne goes ahead and smashes this now in 33, obviously they don't play in 34, 35, he's going to be 70% own all of us, or 100% EO or whatever in 35, and then you've missed the boat. You missed it.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a bit excited here for him, but I think he is a good punt this week. Rich, we've got your team on screen. 93% rating, which looks good for this week, and 3 million in the bank as well. What are your moves?
So, well, this is it. I'm in a very good position to build a mega bench boost team, basically. So I have 3.1 in the bank, so I can get to De Bruyne relatively easily. I wish that Ollie Watkins was number one for Villa, because I was going to do Isak to Watkins, and then I could have done something like Gabriel to Kiwior, and I can do Murphy to De Bruyne.
Goodness me.
With my 3 free transfers. I've
for
got
free.
Saka, got Rodgers, and could do that for free. However, Watkins didn't make the picture, didn't make the lists. It's a very risky pick this week. So I think I'll keep Isak, and my likely transfers are going to be Gabriel to Saliba, nice and safe. Livramento to Ruben Diaz, nice and safe, giving me double Arsenal defence, double City defence, and then Murphy to Rashford, giving me Rodgers and Rashford, giving me 12 doublers plus Areola, Isak, and Salah.
They're your first one.
Do you? You think the first one's better?
Well, it's just Watkins. I was just trying to think of another forward you could pick, but there's no other Dublin forward. Arsenal haven't got any forwards. Villa haven't got any forwards. You've got Marmoush, and who's the other team? At Palace, you've got Mateta. There's no other Dublin forward you could even think of as like a Strand Larsen or so you could just chuck in, is there?
It's just getting the money. Now there's other ways to De Bruyne. I could do Saliba to Kiwior, and that gives me enough money to do Murphy to De Bruyne. Yeah. And I could save a transfer.
That is an absolute no-brainer for me, to be honest.
You go KDB all the way.
I just think, mate, you're on the. You need something, right? You need the big. Yeah. You need the bit of magic, and he's a long-term hold because you're free hitting. You've got it. Like everything I just said about the punt.
Yeah.
You've got him in place for 35 then as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, mate. It's obviously your call.
I think we'll see what the hub says in a minute. But when I put this into my team earlier, both of those options, it got the team rating up to 100%.
Wow. Okay.
So you can't really get any better than having 12 doublers plus Isak and Salah and Areola against Southampton. Right?
That's crazy, mate.
You can't get any better than that, can it? Yeah. I don't know what it says I should do.
I'll tell you now. Your recommendations for this week, and your optimized is the same as your, because obviously you've fed in that your bench boosting is your optimized profile is the same as your aggressive this week. It says Livramento to Ruben Diaz, Gabriel to Saliba, and Jacob Murphy to Marcus Rashford. They are your recommendations.
Yeah, and it was quite nice to see that. I didn't cheat and I didn't look at this before I worked that out myself, and it's nice that you kind of get backed up sometimes by the analytics.
Maybe the Hub AI is the thing I look at every week, and it's not something I kind of look at and go, right, that's it, I'm doing that. But like you've just said, it is sort of that validation that you're thinking is on the same line, and sometimes it chucks up players you don't expect and just makes you think a touch. But yeah, this year the Hub AI is really really strong, and as you say, you're one of the best managers ever to play the game, Rich. The fact that Hub AI is thinking along the same lines as you is testament to it as well, as well as yourself against the machine. But interesting stuff. But I think they're both.
You
solid,
think I should
mate.
I should do KDB? I think the chat seems to agree. The chat's saying go for KDB.
I love it. Chris Woodstock is just, but Fergie, you've sold KDB on me. I've been tempted all week. I'm being 66k. I want my first 1k finish at FPL Row. Is it worth going Savino to
Get
KDB?
in, Kevin.
I love it. This is only my thoughts, mind. I mean, but I'm doing it as a long-term play. If it was a 1 weeker, I'd be a bit more on the fence. But the fact that they've got the fixtures 35 onwards, then probably double in 36 as well. That's why I'm saying it. He may not smash it this week, but he might. He might smash it this week. And if he does, what a position you're in, mate. Like, you're ahead of me on Saka already now. You'll have De Bruyne already in, and I'm suddenly scrambling with no transfers, trying to fit in Kevin De Bruyne in 35.
Yeah. Kiwior looks like the key then. So Kiwior over to Saliba to get the extra cash. Kiwior, sorry.
No, Kiwior. He's the key. That's why he said that for me. Sorry.
Right. I see what you mean.
Sorry, mate. Absolutely awful punch. Show my age. Let's have a look at my team. 93%. I've got nothing in the bank, but I have got 3 free transfers. I'm trying to think where all my money is tied up. But Raya and Pope. Obviously, Pope came in clutch for me this week, but he is away to Villa this week, which is not best on the old bench boost. Whereas you've got Areola, who is fairly decent on the bench, I think, even though I think they'll concede. I've got Timber, Gvardiol, and Munoz. Already got an Arsenal defender. And then Sarah Rogers, Salah, Palmer, and Murphy. I've got Conza in defence as well to come on for the bench boost. And then Mateta, Marmouche, and Isak. So I'm definitely doing Palmer to Saka. That's obviously a bit of a no-brainer, but that only leaves me, I think it leaves me 0.1 or 0.2 or something. It doesn't leave me an awful lot.
He's coming down in price a lot. They're almost going to be the same price by the weekend.
I've got no wiggle room for Palmer to Saka. After doing Palmer to Saka. So I've got no way to KDB unless I do a sort of massive. I need a massive downgrade because I need 4 million to go Murphy up to KDB. So it would be Isak down to also non-playing player, which is what you don't want on bench boost. And if I did Gabriel down to Kiwior, I'm still massively short. And I've only got 3 transfers, and I also want to make a keeper change as well. I know. So my very early thoughts: Palmer to Saka. Pope to Martinez.
Not tempted by Ortega then after today's conversation.
I don't think so because it ties up a third City spot. Yeah. So that's kind of one of them. And I could also do Gabriel to Diaz, or I may want to leave the spot open for De Bruyne, but I think I want a double for the keeper, and obviously Villa may double as well in 36, potentially. I think that's a bit more unlikely in it than is that right? Is that more unlikely? I think it's a touch more unlikely, but I think I'm going to do Martinez, and I quite like. I think Villa's fixtures at the end of the season and not not that bad either. So my third transfer then will be Gabriel to someone. So I think I'm stuck actually with Isak and Murphy.
De Bruyne,
no, I think I'm stuck with Isak and Murphy, which is not a bad place to be stuck. Villa away, Newcastle playing well, scoring lots of goals. They're both on.
What about Palmer to De Bruyne and Murphy to Marino?
I'm not going without Saka. I'm captaining Saka this week now, mate. After the chat we just had,
you're going with Saka.
I'm captaining Saka.
So you think Saka is that far ahead of De Bruyne? You wouldn't even entertain.
Yeah, he's on pens as well, and I prefer the fixtures. I think home to Palace, away to Ipswich are very good fixtures.
Okay.
Actually, I can't do Gabriel to another half defender because I'll have Raya, Timber, and Saka already. So I can't go to Kiwior. So I may go to Ruben Diaz or something. I've already got Konza. I'll have to think. But yeah, mine's not as exciting as yours. But I'm going to have 3 single game weekers, which will be Salah, Isak, and Murphy. is all right. I could take a hit potentially. I'll need to give that a touch more thought, maybe. I don't think my bench is as exciting as yours. Your 2 transfers up on me basically because you already got Saka. Don't smirk, Rich. You see that little smirk on the edge of your lips, and you've got a keeper who you can play.
Happy to play. So
yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, you could play Pope. I mean, I think that keeper change could be more used. I mean, if I want to get KDB in, I've got to get like either save the transfer on Livramento or swap him out for a second Villa doubler like Pau Torres or something. That doesn't feel very worth it to me. Or I could move the keeper to Martinez or something, but that doesn't feel. I think Areola's fine as.
I think Areola's fine, but I think Villa score against Newcastle. I'm not sure. I may go Isak or Murphy to someone potentially. I'm not sure how much I'd have left. I could potentially go. I can't even go for Rashford if I go to Martinez though, because I have 3 Villa already, so it needs a bit of playing around with. But I'm definitely going Palmer to Saka. I know I'm doing that, and then it's a little bit up in the air still at the moment. But I'm going to do that change tonight, I think, because of the price. The price switcheroonies. And the 81st record says leave it for bench boost 36. I mean, I could leave it for 30. I could leave it for 36, but then I'm not guaranteed to have. Well, I don't even know who's playing in 36 yet, and I don't want to hang on to players for another few weeks.
I think this is about as good as it gets.
I think so.
We've got 3 free transfers. The only injury we've got is Gabriel, which is a miracle, to be honest, given the amount of football that's been played. So this is as good as it gets. Yes, it's not as perfect. It's not like a wild card team, but it's pretty damn close. I mean, you've still got choices to make on if you wildcarded this team this week or free hit the team this week. I mean, I can make my team look as good as a free hit team, and you've got to take that across 15 players in a bench boost, haven't you? You've got to do it now, and then get it done, get it out of the way, and then you've still got some players that you can bench in 35 and 36 and so on. So I think it's got to be done this week if you've still got a bench boost.
My optimised and aggressive recommended transfers on Fantasy Football Hub are as follows: Palmer to Saka, Gabriel to Ruben Dias, Pope to Martinez. So kind of, again, what I was thinking anyway. I need you to give it a little bit of thought. We will see. The thing is, Murphy and Isak, good. I'll have Murphy, Isak and Salah. It's not bad, is it?
Cool.
And then 12 double game weekers.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good, mate. That's my point. Is that you've given yourself 27 man games.
Yeah.
In one game week. That
got to do
if
it.
You don't get a green off 27.
And they're all games. And my 3 players, salary to Leicester and Murphy and Isak, who are just on for. I know Isak. He didn't score really heavily, but he still returned in both. He returned in both games. Yeah, he returned in both games, and that's off form. So yeah, we will see. Yeah. But yeah, that's both my optimized and aggressive. If you want to see your own recommendations for your own team, sign up below. 7-day free trial. 30% off still on Fantasy Football Hub. But that is it from us for this week. Apologies again, everyone, for being a touch late on the live stream. We had audio issues, but it was all sorted after a reboot. The old smack the back of the TV sort of job, and it worked. But thanks to everyone joined in the chat. Those who are going to watch it back and those listening on the podcast version, your support, as usual, is very much appreciated. Rich, thank you so much. Where can people get hold of you?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter and Blue Sky.
My handle is at @Fergi_Fergi. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. Drop us 5 stars. Come on, drop us 5 stars and come in and say hello in the comments. Let us know what you think. We're back next week. Rich, you're away next week, so I need to find a podding partner.
Yes, I'm on holiday. It's free hit week, so hopefully you'll text me a decent free hit draft. I'll try and tune in where I am in the world, but I'm not sure how good the Wi-Fi is going to be. So I will see you on the other side of the free hit, and hopefully with a couple of 100 more points in the bank.
Come on, mate. So yeah, we will be back next week, looking ahead to blank game week 34 free hit special. In the meantime, you have a fantastic game week 33, and may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.